The story begins as a boy walks down the street with his mother, and they talk about what to get for dinner, but the ground suddenly shakes, and a three-headed demon appears before them. It destroys everything in its path, so everyone runs for their lives, but the boy trips and falls. It grabs him and prepares to eat him. A rooster named Keiji suddenly comes to his rescue. The demon tells him to give the boy back, but he refuses to do it, and his body starts to glow as he rushes forward to finish her off. In a flashback to a year earlier, we see Keiji as he enjoys himself with a hen, but he decides to leave in the morning. She tries to stop him, but he explains that he was born to wander, so he can't stay in one place for too long. She cries as she wonders if he was just toying with her, so he explains that it isn't the case, and notes that he simply let his animal instincts take over. As Keiji wanders around, he notices an insect flying in the air, so he launches a rock toward it, killing it in an instant. He eats it and finds it delicious, and he knows that it will also help with his digestion, so he's killing two birds with one stone. He goes to a park to drink water, but he catches the attention of two girls, and they wonder where he came from. He thinks about how he hates kids, since they're rude and stubborn, but one of them offers him fried chicken, which makes him wonder if she's nuts. A boy suddenly grabs him, so the girls tell him to let Keiji go, but he refuses to listen to them. He wonders what they should do with Keiji, and his friend wants to eat him, but he notes that it's dangerous, since they don't know what kind of diseases Keiji may have. He decides to feed him to his cat, so Keiji panics and runs away, but the boys chase after him. He goes into a house, where he meets an old man, and the boys catch up to him. They tell the old man that Keiji belongs to them, but he explains that Keiji lives with him, because he knows that they have bad intentions. They can tell that he's lying, but there's nothing they can do about it, so they decide to leave. After that, Keiji is grateful to the old man for saving his life, but he thinks he can't stay there, since he has things he needs to take care of. He prepares to leave, but the old man offers him a plate of food, and he digs in since he can't resist it. He notices that something is bothering the old man, so he explains that his wife used to feed the sparrows, and looking back at his life, he wishes he had retired earlier to spend more time with her. Keiji understands what he's feeling, and he recalls the time his house was attacked by a demon, which ate his sister as she begged him to save her. They suddenly hear an explosion, and they see everyone running for their lives, as a demon goes on a rampage. They notice the boys who were chasing after Keiji, but one of them trips and falls, and the demon catches up to him. The old man refuses to watch him die, so he throws himself on top of him, and the demon prepares to stab them, but Keiji suddenly protects them. The old man takes the kids to safety, and Keiji gets fired up, as he recalls what the demons did to his sister. The demon grabs a car and throws it at him, so he jumps over it and rushes forward, but the demon continues to throw cars at him. He dodges all of them and manages to close the distance, so the demon smashes the ground, but Keiji jumps away. He runs around to dodge its attacks, and he jumps on top of its head, but it still can't hit him. He pokes its eye, and thinks he needs to finish it off before it can recover, so he unleashes his special move, which hits the demon with a devastating sound wave. Everyone covers their ears as they hear his scream, which is so powerful that it destroys the nearby windows, and it blows the demon into pieces. The kids can't understand what just happened, so the old man explains that it's a phenomenon called resonance, where people use their voices to break glass. It happens when a sound frequency matches the wavelength of an object, but he doesn't understand how it can be powerful enough to defeat such a huge demon, and he wonders who Keiji is. We see that something changed inside Keiji's body after the demon ate his sister, and he attacked the demon with his special move, but it wasn't strong enough to defeat the demon, which had a mark on its neck. He checks the demon he just defeated, and realizes it isn't the one who ate his sister, but he notices that the old man's yard has been destroyed, so he helps clean it up. Everyone finishes cleaning up the yard, but they realize that Keiji is gone, and we see that he has decided to leave the town. He hopes that he has repaid the old man's kindness, and he returns to the hen he left, since it isn't his style to leave a woman crying, but he realizes that she has already moved on. We see Keiji in a bucket, while a group of old women dives into the ocean to collect sea urchins, and they give him one of the urchins they caught, but they don't know if he'll eat it. They wonder why he's been with them for 3 days, and after they leave, he inspects the sea urchin, since he has never seen it before. He isn't sure if it's edible, but he still decides to take a bite, and he's surprised by how amazing it tastes. we see a man named Oda, who tries to sell chicks, and one of them named Yoko tells him to keep going. But the other chicks bully her because Oda is selling off their friends, and they're annoyed that she doesn't care about it. Two girls take a look at the chicks, and they find them cute, but they decide to leave since they're afraid of Oda. The police take him to the station and warn him he isn't allowed to sell chicks, so he takes them home. He gives them food and tells them to get along with each other, but they push Yoko to the side and start to eat without her. Oda notices she hasn't eaten anything, so he takes her out of the box and gives her food, and they watch a movie together. She notices that he has the same tattoo as the lead actor, so he admits he wants to be like him, and she asks him to draw it on her back as well. He fulfills her request, and tells her it means she needs to protect the weak, but when he puts her back with the others, they all make fun of her. The next day, Oda returns home beaten up, and he apologizes to a man named Tajima since he couldn't pay his dues to the Yakuza on time. He's glad the boss didn't tell him to sell off his organs, and he knows he needs a way to make more money, so Tajima tells him he's opening a new cleaning company. He mentions that they're entering a different era, where even the Yakuza will need to work proper jobs, and he tells Oda he'll pay off his debt by helping manage the company. Oda starts to cry, and he can't believe how kind Tajima is, but Tajima tells him not to mention it, since brothers look out for each other. After 3 days, a couple of men come to Oda's house, and they tell him Tajima has run away, so he needs to pay the 10 million yen Tajima borrowed. He recalls that Tajima made him sign a form, and he explains that Tajima needed the money to start his business, but the men tell him the Yakuza can't be trusted. He remembers that when he was a child, his mother told him she would be home late, but she never came back, and everyone made fun of him. He cries as he recalls how everyone treated him like trash, and he starts to lose it, but everyone notices that his body is transforming, and they panic as he turns into a demon. A family prepares to eat sea urchin in a restaurant, but they suddenly freak out, since Keiji is staring at them from outside the window. But he sees the explosion caused by Oda, so he goes to check it out. Oda goes on a rampage, so Yoko tries to bring him back to his senses, but he continues to destroy everything. He prepares to eat a bus full of people, so Keiji hits him with his special move, which blows up a part of him. He prepares to attack Oda again, but Yoko begs him to stop, and he wonders what a chick is doing there. He dodges Oda's attack and unleashes his special move, which destroys Oda's head. Yoko goes to check up on Oda, but Keiji tells her he's dead, which makes her cry, and she blames Keiji for his death. They notice that Oda is still alive, and he returns to his original body, which shocks Keiji. He knows that people who turn into demons are destined to meet a tragic end, but Oda's heart wasn't fully taken over by the demon, which is why he was able to survive. Keiji thinks it's because he has Yoko and the others in his life, and she realizes that he was trying to save Oda, which makes her develop feelings for him, but he decides to leave because he has no reason to stay there. She's glad that she at least has Oda with her, and thinks they will live together forever, but she doesn't know if it's what she wants, and he tells her not to worry about him and go after Keiji. As she runs after Keiji, she thanks Oda for everything he's done for her, but she crashes into Keiji, who tells her not to follow him since he hates kids. After that, Oda is admitted to the hospital, while the lawn sharks beat up Tajima and brings him to see Oda. Yoko continues to follow Keiji, but she wonders how someone can leave a cute chick like her behind, and she plans to yell at him once she catches up to him. She becomes hungry, so she looks for food, and she notices a worm, but she doesn't want to eat it since it looks gross. She decides to eat grass, but she sees people running away, and she realizes that another demon has appeared. She's afraid of what it might do to her, but she rushes toward it, since she knows that Keiji will be there. The demon attacks Keiji, but he dodges all of its moves and hits it with a barrage of punches, while Yoko cheers him on. He blasts it with his special move, but it regenerates its body, and tells him there's no point in attacking since it's invincible. Keiji can't believe it's still alive, and he recalls how all the demons he fought had a weak spot around their brains or hearts, so he thinks the demon must have a weak point as well. We learn that its heart and brain are in its tail, and it thinks Keiji will never think to attack it, but he charges up his special move once again. The demon thinks it won't cause any damage, but he blasts its entire body, and it panics as he reaches its tail. The demon blows up, and Yoko is glad that he won the fight, but she realizes he's exhausted, so she rushes to check on him. But the demon suddenly tries to eat her, and Keiji pushes her out of the way, so it bites him instead. The demon finally meets its end, but she realizes that the people are gathering around them and she knows she can't let them see Keiji, so she drags him to a safe spot. He asks for water, and she thinks it's her duty to protect him, so she finds a bottle cap and lifts his head to make sure he can drink. She realizes he isn't getting better, so she finds a worm, and even though she's afraid of it, she still picks it up and feeds it to him. He finally wakes up, and he's surprised that he's still alive, but he notices Yoko sleeping beside him, and he realizes she saved him. As Yoko wakes up, she notices that Keiji is gone, so she starts to cry, but he suddenly appears behind her and tells her he'll leave her behind if she slows him down. She becomes annoyed and kicks him in the head, and notes that he didn't even thank her for saving his life, but a chicken named Elizabeth suddenly attacks him with her sword. He acts like he doesn't know who she is, but she's glad that he hasn't changed, because she can kill him without reservations. The people around them wonder what they're doing, while Keiji doesn't understand why she's trying to kill him, so she notes that she'll never forget what he did to her. She rushes toward him, so he dodges her attack, but she ends up destroying a vending machine. She explains that her sword is charged with 10 million volts of power, and reveals that she made it to turn him into roast chicken. But he still doesn't understand why she hates him, so she realizes he really has forgotten what he did to her. In a flashback, we learn that a wealthy family adopted Elizabeth after she hatched, and they always showered her with love. She learns all types of tricks to make them happy, but even though there's nothing wrong in her life, she still feels like something is missing. A demon suddenly appears at their home, and it prepares to crush them, but Keiji suddenly eliminates the demon, which makes her fall in love with him. They spend the day walking on the beach, and he tells her about his travels, which makes her like him even more. She spends the night with him, and realizes that love is what she's been missing all this time, but he decides to leave her afterwards, which makes her cry. Back in the present, Elizabeth notes that it's been 6 months since he stomped on her heart, and Yoko realizes she's Keiji's ex-girlfriend. Elizabeth rushes at him again, so he avoids her attacks, and tells her to stop before she gets hurt, but she refuses to listen to him. He runs away from her, as he jumps from one car to the next, but Yoko tells him to stop and show Elizabeth who's boss. He suddenly turns around and kisses her, which shocks Yoko, but he prepares to do it with her, which makes her angry. He knows she doesn't want to kill him, but a police officer rushes toward them, so he picks Yoko up and runs away. Elizabeth thinks about how she swore to kill Keiji when she found him, but the way she acts confirms that she still has feelings for him. As they get to safety, Yoko is annoyed at Elizabeth for kissing her man, which makes Elizabeth wonder if Keiji put his hands on a child. He assures her he would never do such a thing, but she refuses to believe him because he has no restraints when it comes to women. She doesn't understand why she's acting like she still has feelings for him, and reminds herself she still hasn't forgiven him. So she tells him he isn't the only reason she started her journey, and explains that she plans to eliminate the demons. She notes that after he left, she saw how the demons destroyed her town, and she even lost her friends because of them. But she knows they're causing destruction everywhere, so she plans to make sure no one else loses their friends and family like her. Keiji mentions that he has no such motive, and notes that he only wants to avenge his sister, but she asks him if he knows where to find the demon with a mark on its neck. She notes that she's been researching demons, and explains that after their first appearance 3 years ago, 800 demons have been spotted, with most of them only trying to eliminate humans. They didn't have intelligence, but they've started to change recently, as the new variants show intellect and human-like emotions. A few of them are peaceful, and even help humans in times of need, but she shows Keiji a video of a demon, which has 4 horns and a white body. It turns its hand into a phoenix and unleashes it on everyone, which shocks Keiji, because it looked just like his sister. Elizabeth tells him to look at the mark on the demon's neck, which makes him lose his mind, and he notes that he needs to be alone for a while. At night, Keiji thinks about how he has no clue what's going on, but he believes he'll learn everything once he finds the demon, so he's even more fired up to defeat it. The next day, Elizabeth takes them to a hot spring, which excites Yoko, and she's glad that no humans are there. She mentions that the water there will help heal Keiji's injuries, but she notices that something's bothering him, and she's shocked to learn that he's afraid of water. He notes that animals that live on land don't need to learn how to swim, but she pushes him into the water, which makes him panic, but he realizes that the water isn't that deep, and he finds it relaxing. She puts a cold towel on his head, and tells him chickens regulate heat through their crown, so the towel will keep him from overheating. As they enjoy the hot spring, Yoko sees Elizabeth is too close to Keiji, so she tells her to get away from him. Elizabeth wonders why the word duty is written on Yoko's back, and even though she doesn't like Elizabeth, she decides to tell her, since Elizabeth gave her a towel. She reveals that Oda wrote it on her back, and told her to fight for the weak, which makes her cry as she remembers him. She notes that she has decided to follow Keiji, which makes Elizabeth think Yoko is conflicted, but she reminds herself that she still hasn't forgiven him. After that, Keiji's body becomes hot since he stayed in the hot spring for a long time, and they notice that a monster has appeared in front of them, but it turns out to be Elizabeth. She mentions that she took a mud bath, because it's good for the skin, and she tells Keiji he doesn't know anything about women. As Yoko falls asleep, Elizabeth asks Keiji what's on his mind, so he tells her he isn't sure if the white demon she showed him is the same one from his memory. She thinks the phoenix he thought was his sister Sarah might have been someone else. Elizabeth doesn't understand how it could have been Sarah, since it was on fire. He tells her about the time Sarah was attacked by a dog, and he tried to protect her, but he ended up getting injured. She realized he was about to die, but she suddenly awakened her powers, and burned the dog alive. Elizabeth mentions that the demons have been evolving, so the white demon might be the evolved form of the one that ate Sarah, and she thinks the mark on its neck is proof that her theory is correct. She thinks their questions will be answered once they find the white demon, and she notes that the demon first appeared in Tokyo, which is 300 kilometers away. But Keiji suddenly notices that Yoko has gone missing, and we see that a cat has taken her away. Yoko gets away and runs into a pipe, but the cat continues to try and get her, so Keiji tells the cat to leave her alone. She refuses to back down, so they prepare to fight, but the cat's children suddenly arrive. Elizabeth realizes she was after Yoko to feed her children, and she mentions that she hasn't been able to get them anything to eat for 10 days, so Elizabeth lays an egg for them to eat. The cat is grateful to her, but she explains that the egg isn't alive since it isn't fertilized, so she was planning to throw it away, and she's glad it didn't go to waste. She realizes the cat has an owner, so she wonders if her owner isn't feeding them, but Keiji sees the whole town digging holes. He realizes they aren't in their right minds, so the cat mentions that a monster appeared 10 days ago, and it's making everyone dig holes without rest. She feels bad for the children, because they're being held in a shed, and she doesn't think they're being fed properly. One of the kids named Sei tells everyone they will die if they don't do anything, so they break out of the shed, and he holds the guard to make sure the others can get away, but they end up getting caught. An officer prepares to shoot him, but Elizabeth electrocutes the officer and the guard, and uses her phone to tell the children to tie them up. They head to Sei's house, and Elizabeth wonders if anyone came to help them, but he explains that the officer under the monster's control must have kept everything under wraps. He cooks ramen for everyone, and Elizabeth praises his cooking skills, so he explains that he had to do it to survive, since his mother died when he was little. She tells everyone her group is on a journey to eliminate all the demons, and notes that the monster in their village might be a demon as well. But they don't know much about it, since they've been locked up in the shed the entire time, so she tells Keiji they should go visit the monster. The kids mention that the monster doesn't have 4 horns, so Keiji refuses to go with Elizabeth, since he only wants to defeat the white demon. Keiji suddenly starts to feel overly romantic, and the feeling is too intense for him to control himself, so he grabs Elizabeth, but she pushes him away. He begs her to help him, and seeing how desperate he is, she agrees to do it with him if he helps her take down the demon the following day, but he realizes he needs to control himself until then. He bites himself to calm down, and she tells him to sleep in the bathroom since he's too dangerous. The next day, as Elizabeth wakes up, she notices that Sei is gone, while Keiji notes that he couldn't sleep all night. She wonders where Sei went, so the other children mention that he might have gone to see the demon, who happens to be his father. Sei points a gun at the demon, and demands that it give his father back, but it flicks him away, and opens up its chest to show him his father. In a flashback, we see that Sei's father lost all his money betting on a horse race, and Sei yells at him because he took loans to gamble. He notes that he'll pay everything back after he wins big at an underground casino, but Sei asks him why he doesn't just get a job, which annoys him, since no one gets rich that way. He finds a box with a scroll, and he decodes the text, which mentions that a group of bandits buried their treasure in that area, and it's currently worth 1 billion yen. He continues to dig for a year, but he doesn't find anything, so he becomes frustrated and turns into a demon. In the present, Say's father tells him that once they get rich, they can leave the village and do whatever they want. But Say mentions that he doesn't care about money, and notes that he only wants to live a normal life with his father. He tells the demon to zip him back up, and it suddenly turns into a giant, as it tells Say that money is the only thing that matters. Elizabeth and the others arrive, and she sees that the demon is a variant just like she thought, but she didn't expect it to be so huge. It opens an eye on its forehead, and Elizabeth warns Keiji not to look at it, but it's too late for Yoko, who falls under the demon's control. She starts to dig, but Elizabeth tells the demon to dig the treasure itself, instead of making everyone else do its dirty work. It attacks with its fist, so she dodges its attack and electrocutes it, but it has no effect, so she thinks she needs more voltage. Keiji lunges at it, but it opens up the zippers on its body to defend itself, and notes that it will devour anything that gets close to it. Keiji unleashes his special move, but it gets out of the way, and they're surprised by how fast it is. Say asks Keiji to spare his dad, but Elizabeth comes up with an idea, and tells Keiji to lure the demon toward the electric poles. The demon charges at Keiji, and he dodges its attacks, but it throws the debris from the ground to blind him. It prepares to finish him off, but it suddenly sees treasure lying on the ground, so it becomes distracted. Elizabeth attaches her grappling hook to the electric poles, and she uses the electricity to shock the demon, while Keiji finishes it off with his special move. Its head explodes, and everyone returns to their senses, but Keiji rushes to Elizabeth and reminds her of her promise. But she has no plans of doing anything with him, since she still hates him for leaving her. Say hugs his father, but Keiji is angry at him, because he's the reason why he had to fight and get nothing in return. Keiji unleashes his special move, and Say gets in the way, but Keiji still refuses to stop. Say's father pushes him out of the way, and he begs Keiji to spare his son, explaining that he's the only one who should die, since he's been a burden to everyone. Keiji decides to spare him as well, while Elizabeth tells him to remember what happened for the rest of his life. As she leaves with Kei, she admits that she was impressed by his actions, so he thinks he has a chance with her. He gets close to her and tells her he loves her, but she kicks him in the nuts. We learn that a man named Ibukura filmed their fight with the demon, and when he puts it online, it instantly goes viral. Keiji and the others become famous, and everyone stares at them as they walk around town, so Yoko thinks they're looking at her since she's cute, but a group of delinquents want to catch them. Meanwhile, Ibukura thinks about how he planned to get famous by uploading videos of strange bugs, but that was until he saw Keiji and the others fighting the demon. He followed them to the city, and even though he lost them, he knows they're still there. He plans to capture them and upload the ultimate video of him hunting them down, but he doesn't even notice them running outside. The delinquents surround Keiji and the others, and they prepare to capture them, but Keiji and his friends jump onto the roof to escape. Elizabeth is surprised by the number of views the video has gotten, and she thinks they should just lie low for a while, since the humans are after them. Keiji refuses to hide, and notes that he'll live his life the way that he wants, so Elizabeth tells him not to underestimate the humans, but he doesn't listen to her. They start to argue, and Keiji decides to leave, telling her he'll continue to travel alone, but Yoko runs after him. As Keiji walks around the city, a man approaches him from behind, but he breaks the man's net and continues to walk away. He comes across a pachinko shop, and he decides to try it, but he doesn't understand how humans can enjoy themselves since it's too loud. He notices a demon named Morio, so he prepares to fight, but Morio telepathically tells him he doesn't like fighting. Keiji doesn't sense bloodlust, so he thinks Morio is telling the truth, and Morio lets him try the machine. He wins the jackpot on his first try, which excites him, but a man tells Morio that pets aren't allowed in the shop. As they leave, Morio can't believe the amount of money he won, since he walked in with a coin he found on the ground. Keiji thinks he should share the money, since he wants to eat sea urchin, but Morio doesn't feel it's right to use the money, so he decides to return it. Keiji stops him and convinces him that the winnings are a result of his luck, so refusing such a gift from God is like a sin. He makes Morio buy sea urchin, and he starts to cry tears of joy, but as he takes a bite, he realizes it tastes disgusting since it isn't fresh from the sea. Keiji passes out from disappointment, so Morio carries him to his hut, and as Keiji wakes up, he thanks Morio for looking after him. Morio mentions that he lives alone, and even though he goes to the city to have fun, his hut is still his favorite spot. Keiji wonders what happened to the human who created him, so he explains that he doesn't know, but thinks the human must be living a happy life. In a flashback, we see Morio as he gets diagnosed with cancer, and the doctor tells him he only has a month to live. He thinks about how he didn't live a good life, and we learn that he never even had a girlfriend, so he wishes he could continue living. A demon is born from his body, and it tells Morio it was born because of his will to live, so it will live for both of them, telling Morio to die without regrets. He gets a call from the doctor, who tells him he doesn't actually have cancer, explaining that his report got mixed up with someone else, so he runs off, and notes that he'll live his life like he's been reborn. In the present, Morio tells Keiji he's a creature with no purpose in life, and he mentions that the people of the city call him a monster and bully him. But Keiji notes that no one has a meaningless life, and he assures Morio he'll eventually find his purpose. He offers Keiji alcohol, and as they get drunk, Keiji ends up vomiting. He tells Morio he will show him something special, and he starts to dance, which makes Morio burst out laughing. After that, Morio thanks Keiji for spending time with him, since it's the most fun he has had in his life, and Keiji is glad to learn that there are good demons like Morio in this world. As Keiji leaves, he plans to look for a place to stay, and he wonders where Elizabeth and Yoko are, but he notices that a storm is coming. Yoko continues to look for Keiji, and Elizabeth tells her to forget about him, but she notes that she hates Elizabeth since she always bullies him. They're found by a girl named Misuzu, who takes them to her home, where she lives with her sick grandfather. Elizabeth uses her phone to talk to her, and she introduces themselves to Misuzu, who's surprised by how smart she is. She gives them wheat to eat, and she starts to study, as she reveals that she wants to become a doctor so that she can cure her grandfather. Elizabeth knows that the area is experiencing record levels of rainfall, and she asks Misuzu why they don't evacuate, since they live near the river, but her grandfather is sure nothing will happen. Elizabeth thinks about how she hates Keiji for what he did to her, but she doesn't understand why she couldn't bring herself to kill him, which makes her wonder if she still has feelings for him. A man comes to their house and tells them to evacuate since the river's flooded, so they make their way to the evacuation center. They notice that the floodwater is about to reach them, but Misuzu's grandfather's wheelchair gets stuck, so Elizabeth helps her push it, but it still doesn't move. Yoko sees how hard Elizabeth is trying to save him, and she recalls how Elizabeth rescued her from the cat, which makes her think she's the embodiment of the duty Oda told her about. Yoko starts to push the wheelchair as well, and the grandfather tells them to leave him, since the water will reach them in a matter of seconds. But she unleashes her full power, and they manage to get to safety just in time. He starts to cry and thanks them for saving his life, but Yoko tells him not to give up before Misuzu grows up, and Elizabeth thinks they wouldn't have made it if it weren't for Yoko. Meanwhile, Morio wonders if Keiji is okay, but he suddenly feels vibrations, and he realizes the dam is about to break, worrying that the entire city is in trouble. We see Ibukura as he continues to look for Keiji and Elizabeth, and he's determined to find them, since he wants to become a successful YouTuber. In a flashback to 3 months earlier, we see Ibukura working in an office, but his coworkers complain about the report he made, since they had to rewrite it for their client. He doesn't thank them for rewriting his report, and his other coworkers think he's useless, so they hope he quits soon. We return to the present, as Ibukura thinks he needs to make it big, so that he can prove his coworkers wrong. Morio rushes to the dam, and sees that it's about to collapse, so he unleashes his powers and prepares to hold it in place. Meanwhile in the evacuation center, a man tells everyone that the dam could break because of the heavy rainfall, so they start to panic. Elizabeth prepares to head to the dam, since she wants to prevent it from breaking, and Yoko decides to go with her. Ibukura sees them in the streets, and decides to follow them, but as they reach the dam, they're surprised to see Morio risking his life to save everyone. Ibukura goes live, and the people in the evacuation center see Morio, but they can't believe a demon is holding the dam in place. They start to cheer for him, but Misuzu notices Elizabeth and Yoko, and she wonders what they're doing there. He tells them to escape since it's dangerous, but Elizabeth asks him why he's putting everything on the line to save the city, so he explains that he cares about the people. He finally realizes that his life's purpose is to protect everyone, and Ibukura continues to record him, but realizes he's nothing compared to him. Ibukura recalls that he told his mother he wanted to become a lawyer, but he failed the exam, and told her it's all her fault. He cries as he realizes he blamed other people for his failures, since he didn't want to admit he was responsible for everything, but he suddenly falls as the dam starts to break apart. He thinks he's about to meet his end, but Keiji suddenly pushes him to safety, and he praises Mario for protecting everyone. He suddenly reaches his limit and gets swept away, so Keiji runs to stop the flood, while Ibukura shows everyone the dam, and they think they're doomed since it has collapsed. Keiji doesn't want Mario's sacrifice to go to waste, so he uses his special move to destroy a cliff, causing the falling rocks to block the water, but they don't hold since the current is too strong. He thinks he needs to find something sturdier, and sees a giant rock, which he thinks is perfect for blocking the water. Elizabeth watches him as he tries to bring it down, and she thinks it's their last chance to stop the water, since they're already close to the town. She sees the water approaching, so she isn't sure if he'll make it in time, and he continues to unleash his special move, but he stops as a rock hits him. She realizes he's injured, but he refuses to let up, and everyone cheers for him, since they know he's putting everything on the line to save them. Elizabeth recalls that he always does his best to save others, because he's actually a good person at heart, and she finally realizes she still loves him. He manages to bring the rock down, but it doesn't block the path, so he prepares to blast it again. But everyone panics as the water reaches him, and they start to fear the worst. Yoko starts to cry, but everyone sees something moving in the water, and Keiji blasts through it with his supercharged scream. His attack hits the rock, which finally blocks the water's path, and everyone celebrates as they realize they have been saved, but he collapses because of his injuries. Yoko praises him for saving everyone and starts to kiss him, so Elizabeth tries to stop her, but she explains that there's nothing wrong with kissing her future husband. She wonders if Elizabeth is also in love with him, so she notes that it isn't the case, but Yoko wonders why she's blushing. Ibukura calls his mother, and tells her he no longer wants to be a YouTuber, since he realized it isn't his calling. He notes that he has decided to travel the world and face his insecurities, so that he can become a stronger person, and he promises to call her again soon. We learn that he was inspired by Keiji's bravery, so he now wants to protect people in the future, and he's glad he was able to meet him. Elizabeth asks Keiji how he ended up there, and we learn that he was worried about Elizabeth and Yoko, since he learned that the dam was about to break, so he decided to do what he could to stop the flooding. He tells Elizabeth he just happened to pass by, but she knows he's lying, and he recalls the moments he spent with Mario, thinking he'll never meet him again. But we see that Mario survived the incident, and he's happy he's still alive. He realizes Keiji stopped the floodwater, so he calls out to him, and thanks him for saving the city. Keiji is glad he made it, and they bid each other farewell, but a woman named Kaguya suddenly appears behind Mario and stabs him in the head. Keiji recalls how the white demon ate his sister, and she appears before him, telling him she died because he couldn't protect her. But he suddenly wakes up, and wonders why he keeps getting that dream. He uses the sand to clean himself, and Yoko thinks he's playing with sand, but Elizabeth explains that he's removing the bugs and impurities from his feathers. She reveals that she uses another method to clean herself, and she takes out her bug spray, explaining that it's perfect for an elegant woman. They meet the pigeons Ken and Masa, who recognize them as the chickens that were on YouTube, and they're glad to meet them in person. They ask Keiji to join them for a group date with the other pigeons, and explain that their friend can't attend since he accepted a job, so they want Keiji to take his place. He explains that he isn't interested in pigeons, but they ask him to reconsider, and Elizabeth tells him to go with them, so he decides to join the group date. They meet the girls, but they mock Keiji since he's a chicken, so he becomes upset, and Yoko tells them to stop teasing him. Elizabeth tells her to calm down, and admits that she's also angry, but she thinks they shouldn't use violence. She tells Keiji to show the pigeons how amazing chickens are, since it's the only way to win the group date, so he decides to use his charm. He introduces himself with style, and Yoko tells him he's cool, but the girls think he's lame, which makes him depressed. He hears the pigeons talking about their talents, and realizes it's his chance to impress them, so he tells them about his powers, but they still think he's lame since he can't fly. They think he isn't worth their time, so he becomes angry and flips the table, and tells them he'll live with pride no matter what they say about him. He prepares to walk away, but they suddenly fall in love with him since he's so cool, and they ask him to marry them. Elizabeth becomes jealous, so she tells them he's a womanizer, which turns them off, and they fly away since they think he's trash. After that, Elizabeth apologizes for calling him a womanizer, and Keiji tells her it's okay, since he didn't like the pigeons anyway. Yoko suddenly falls off the bench, and someone catches her, but we see that it's Kaguya, and she tells them to keep her safe. Meanwhile, we meet a chicken named Kisuke, who's injured since he's fighting a group of demons. His father tells him to escape, so he runs for his life, and the leader of the demons tells his friends not to pursue him, since he knows Kisuke will return to save their hostage. Elizabeth cooks a fish, and Keiji wonders how she caught it, so she reveals that she used her sword to electrocute it. Yoko wonders if she can also do it, but realizes she isn't strong enough to lift Elizabeth's sword, and Elizabeth tells her she's still too young. She asks Yoko to pick dandelion flowers for her, since she wants to add them to the food, so Yoko looks around, but realizes that Elizabeth already has the flowers she needs. She finishes cooking the food, and as Keiji tastes it, he's amazed by how delicious it is, but he wonders why he has the smallest portion. He starts to argue with Elizabeth, who explains that she divided the food equally, and tells him not to be greedy, but Yoko tells him he can have her portion. He eats it in one bite, and Elizabeth can't believe he didn't leave any for Yoko, but he doesn't seem to care. After that, Elizabeth looks into the white demon, but notes that she can't find new leads, so she thinks they should look for clues where it was last sighted, but she suddenly realizes that Yoko is gone. We see a lizard being bullied, but Yoko suddenly arrives to save him, so the bullies gang up on her. But their attacks have no effect, and she easily defeats all of them. She tells them to think twice before bullying again, and she starts to mock them, so their leader becomes angry and turns into a demon. She freaks out and runs for her life, but the demon chases after her, so she hides behind a car. It's about to find her, but it suddenly hears a noise, and gets distracted as it sees a cat. She uses the chance to run away, but she sees its main body, and it prepares to eat her. Keiji and Elizabeth suddenly arrive to save her, and they take down the demon, but she becomes depressed since she feels useless. She wonders why she's so weak, and recalls that her friends always saved her when she was in trouble, so she thinks she's a burden. Keiji and Elizabeth realize she's depressed, but Elizabeth wonders why she hasn't grown at all, even though she's been with them for over a month. Kisuke suddenly appears behind them, and Keiji doesn't recognize him, but he calls Keiji his big brother, and suddenly collapses from his injuries. In a flashback to 5 days earlier, we see Kisuke with his father, and they notice a demon threatening a girl, so Kisuke thinks they need to save her. The boy named Hikari approaches it and stabs it in the head, but he suddenly spreads his wings and flies away, so they decide to follow him. He takes the demon to an abandoned warehouse, and after he leaves, they check the spot where he stored it, but they're surprised to see several demons with no life force. They wonder what he's up to, but he suddenly returns with his partner, who shoots them while Hikari captures Kisuke's father. Hikari reveals that he knew they were following him, and he knows they're from the Gashidori family, since his superiors told him about them. Kisuke asks Hikari and his partner if they're demons, but he reveals that they're different, since they're among the chosen ones called devils. He orders 2 of his demons to attack Kisuke, but he easily defeats them, so Hikari's partner turns his hand into a machine gun and opens fire. Kisuke runs to dodge the bullets, but one of them hits him, and he starts to bleed, but Hikari reminds his partner that they need to take him alive. Kisuke realizes he's no match for the devils, so he runs for his life, but he promises to return for his father. He thinks he needs help, since he can't defeat the devils alone, and he recalls how his father told him he has a half-brother named Keiji, so he decides to look for him. He sees people watching Keiji online, and realizes his brother is in a nearby city, so he goes there to look for him. Back in the present, Kisuke wakes up and sees Elizabeth, but he immediately falls in love with her and starts to lose it, so she calms him down. He wonders if she was the one who took care of him, so she explains that she just stayed by his side, which makes him flustered. She realizes he isn't used to talking to women, so she teases him for fun, but Keiji suddenly kicks him away and tells him to stop messing around. Keiji asks him who he is, so he introduces himself as Keiji's younger half-brother and reveals that they've met before. In another flashback, we see Keiji's parents having a moment when he suddenly rides on his mother's back and covers her eyes. He tells her to guess who it is, but his father calls him by his name, and he's upset since his father gave it away. One day, Keiji goes for a walk, but he sees his father with Kisuke's mother and wonders why he has another family. Kisuke notices Keiji and asks him if he wants to play, but he suddenly runs off. Back in the present, Keiji realizes Kisuke is telling the truth, and he asks Keiji to help save their father, but he refuses to do it since he hates him. He recalls that his father abandoned him when he was little, and his mother got sick from the heartbreak, but she spent her final moments protecting Sarah, who was just a chick when she died. He blames his father for her death, and calls him garbage for abandoning them, but Kisuke becomes angry, since he respects his father as his mentor. Keiji continues to insult him, so they start to fight, but Kisuke overpowers Keiji, and realizes his brother isn't as strong as he thought. Keiji goes all out, and they continue to clash, but Kisuke dodges his attacks and tells him he's too slow. Kisuke wants to stop the fight, but he refuses to let up, so Kisuke uses his special move to kick him away, and Elizabeth and Yoko can't believe Keiji lost. After that, Kisuke realizes his brother isn't strong enough to defeat the devils, so he thinks he needs to fight them alone, but he knows he needs help to save his father. Keiji can't believe he was no match for his brother, and he wants to get revenge, but Kisuke suddenly appears behind him. He prepares to fight again, but Kisuke begs him to help save their father, since the demons will conquer the world if he dies. Elizabeth asks Kisuke what he means, so he explains that he's been helping his father fight demons, since it's the duty of the Gashidori family to stop them. He explains the situation to Elizabeth and Keiji, and admits that he can't defeat the devils alone, but he doesn't want to lose his father, who's being held hostage in a warehouse in Akamori City. Elizabeth looks it up, and realizes there have been multiple demon sightings in the city, but she's surprised to see that Morio is involved. Everyone wonders why he would do that, so they decide to join Kisuke and head to the city, but they realize it has been destroyed by the demons. Elizabeth notes that there were no casualties reported, but the city has been the target of demon attacks, and Kisuke thinks the devils are behind everything. They see an octopus demon going on a rampage, so Kisuke and Keiji gang up on him, but they start to argue since they don't like working together. They prepare to use their special moves to finish him off, but Elizabeth tells them not to kill him, since he used to help humans. She uses her grappling hook and jumps around him, causing him to be trapped in her wires, but we see a demon watching them, and he flies back to his master. We see Keiji's father being tortured, and Hikari asks him if he has allies, but he refuses to say anything. The demon reports to Hikari, revealing that he saw Kisuke working with other chickens, and Hikari thinks they'll head to the warehouse soon. He asks his mother Kaguya if she'll be proud of him if he catches the chickens, and she tells him to go for it since it will make her happy. Yoko tells the octopus demon to wake up, and reminds him that he used to help humans, but a parasite suddenly comes out of his head. It prepares to attack her, but Keiji kicks it away, and the octopus comes back to his senses, so Elizabeth lets him go. His arms fall off, and he thanks everyone for saving him, revealing that he still remembers what happened while he was being controlled. He recalls that he was helping farmers in a field, when Hikari suddenly stabbed him in the head, and planted the parasite in his brain, causing him to lose control. Elizabeth asks him about Morio, so he reveals that he saw him in the warehouse, and explains that he doesn't know what the devils are up to, but he heard them say they were looking for a lead. Elizabeth wonders what they're searching for, but Keiji tells her it isn't important, and notes that they must save Morio. Yoko decides to go with him, and she knows she can't do much, but she wants to help Morio since he's her friend. Kisuke thinks they need to come up with a strategy, since they aren't strong enough to defeat the devils, but Keiji tells him it doesn't matter, and notes that he'll do whatever it takes to save Morio. Elizabeth explains that she needs to meet someone before she heads to the warehouse, and promises to catch up to them, so Keiji and the others prepare to fight the devils without her. Elizabeth's father comes out of a plane, and tells her he missed her, since they haven't seen each other in 6 months, but his bodyguard can't understand him since he's speaking in Chickenese. He gives her the weapon she requested, and she can't believe he completed it in 4 hours, so he explains that he ordered his Yanazaka group to work on it right away. She thanks him for the weapon, but he wonders what she needs it for, so she reveals that she has decided not to kill demons, since there are variants like Morio who use their powers to help humans. Keiji and the others reach the warehouse, and see the devils waiting for them, so Kisuke tells them to let his father go. But Keiji immediately charges at Hikari, who easily dodges his attacks and forces him back. Keiji asks him about Morio, and we learn that Kaguya told him not to kill Keiji since she's interested in him, but explained that he's free to kill the others. He wonders why Keiji wants to save Morio and reminds him that their goal is to eradicate demons, so he explains that Morio is different since he put his life on the line to protect people. Keiji wants to make the devils pay for forcing him to hurt the humans he loves, and Hikari agrees to let Morio and Keiji's father go, but notes that they must first play with his friends. The demons charge in, but Keiji dodges their attacks and uses his special move to destroy a steel column, which hits the demons as it explodes. Kisuke also uses his special move to take out the demons, but there are too many of them, so Keiji decides to stop holding back and prepares to wipe them out. Elizabeth suddenly stops him and shoots the demons with her energy gun, which instantly paralyzes them, and she notes that they'll be out for a couple of days. Hikari decides to make things more interesting and calls the giant demons to join the fight, but Keiji realizes Morio is one of them. He tries to talk to him, but his words can't reach him, so he decides to wake him up and tells his friends to deal with the others. He blasts Morio's head with his special move, but it doesn't kill the parasite, so he hides and wonders how he can save Morio. Yoko comes up with a plan and explains that she's small enough to enter Morio's body, so she thinks she can look for the parasite in his brain and destroy it. Keiji thinks her plan is too risky, but she explains that it's the only way, and tells him she can also fight. Elizabeth shoots a giant demon, but it doesn't work, so she charges up her weapon and fires a powerful energy beam, which knocks it out cold. Yoko brings a nail with her, and Keiji helps her climb Morio's body, but he doesn't let them reach his nose. The octopus demon suddenly restrains him and tells Yoko to go for it, so she's able to get in through Morio's nose. She accidentally touches his snot and realizes it's coming from a small opening, and she thinks she can use it to reach his brain. She squeezes through it and eventually reaches his brain, but she freaks out as she sees the parasite, but she musters her courage and charges at it. It scratches her with its claws, and she wants to quit because of the pain, but she knows that Keiji wouldn't give up if he were in her place. She gets back up and notices that the parasite can't move since it's connected to Morio's brain, so she runs around it and stabs it from behind. It screams in pain, and she thinks she can win the fight, but it suddenly stabs her through the chest. She falls down and thinks that it's all over for her, but a mark suddenly appears on her body as she awakens a hidden power. But that's where this video ends. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.